On today's podcast, we sit down with Dave Wallace, the music executive behind breaking UK bands like Two Door Cinema Club, Blossoms, and Bombay Bicycle Club into the US market. Dave shares his incredible journey from UK booking agent to global music strategist, revealing the biggest challenges of translating domestic success into international recognition. We dive deep into the art of building a global story around an artist, the evolving threshold for attracting labels and management, and what it really takes to commit to a career as an artist or songwriter today. You'll hear inside stories about developing breakout acts, the truth about emerging markets, and the hard-fought lessons that can only come from years in the trenches. If you're ready to learn from one of the industry's top insiders, stay tuned, because this episode is packed with wisdom you won't want to miss. Insiders, are you ready? Welcome to MUBUTV's Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the new music industry. Here are your hosts, Rich Ezra and Eric Knight. Welcome back, Insiders, to another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. On today's show, we're excited to welcome Dave Wallace, a visionary manager and executive who's played a key role in breaking iconic UK bands like Two Door Cinema Club, Blossoms, and Bombay Bicycle Club into the US market. In this raw and insightful interview, Dave takes us deep inside the challenges of translating domestic success into global recognition and reveals the evolution of his strategies working across continents and industry giants like Virgin Music and Rock Nation. We'll explore how creating momentum in your home territory can spark international buzz, the art of storytelling to media and gatekeepers, and why artistic quality still matters even in the age of numbers and algorithms. Dave also offers practical advice for up-and-coming songwriters, producers, and artists on what it truly takes to build a sustainable career in today's music business. Plus, he recommends his favorite books and documentaries for anyone looking for inspiration on this journey. You don't want to miss this masterclass in international artist development, industry insight, and the mindset it takes to make it in the modern music world. Stay tuned. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Insiders! Are you an aspiring musician, artist, band, or future music business professional looking to take your career to the next level? Well, look no further. At MUBUTV, we offer personalized career counseling and coaching designed specifically for folks like you.
Imagine having both of us by your side, guiding you through every step of your music journey. Our sessions are tailored to meet your unique needs, focusing on critical aspects of your music career, such as refining your songs, defining your artist story, identifying your target audience, and enhancing your social media presence, just to name a few.
Whether you're just starting out or looking to elevate your existing career, we've got you covered. Our comprehensive approach ensures you get insights on everything from live shows to branding and marketing strategies. We understand that every artist is unique. That's why our coaching is personalized just for you.
And here's the best part. We offer flexible coaching packages that fit any budget. Choose from individual sessions ranging from 30 to 90 minutes, or save with our discounted 4-session packages. Experience custom sessions designed to enhance your music career with opportunities for greater savings when you choose bundled sessions. Investing in your musical journey has never been more accessible.
Imagine the clarity and direction you'll gain after just one session. The feedback on your songs, the strategies to grow your audience, and the confidence to perform live, all tailored just for you.
So why wait? Don't let uncertainty hold you back. Join us for your free 15-minute discovery call at book.mubutv.com for a transformative coaching experience that will elevate your music career. That's book.mubutv.com.
Hi, this is Travis Drum. I'm a music supervisor at Ignition Creative, and you're listening to the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.
Welcome back, Insiders. Today's featured guest is none other than the general manager of Mushroom Records in the U.S., Dave Wallace. This was a really, really interesting conversation. I didn't know Dave before this.
Right. Neither did I, yeah.
Yeah, and got to know who he was. Very, very interesting guy. What I loved about Dave was that he comes from the management side. This is a very interesting point, because he's not somebody that's, strictly from the recorded music side and doesn't know what it takes in terms of managing artists.
Right.
It's somebody who comes from the management side. And what makes that so important, I think, and distinct is the fact that when you come from the management side, you see the perspective of what it takes to manage talent, both from the artist side and the label side and the agent side and producer and all of those relationships. And he talked about that element that I thought was so important of the network that you need to have and the networking skills that you need to have in terms of breaking talent. You know, that's a very, very important part that I think it's a subtle point, but it's a very important one. And it's one that I thought he illustrated really, really well in his conversation with us about artists and I think he did that because just innately he comes from managing talent and understood that principle very, very well.
One of the other things that I thought was really great was the importance of storytelling in artist success, translating your story in a way that U.S. media, radio, and booking agents can relate to is crucial for breaking artists abroad. One of the things that I loved was, you know, how much he studied the American market and how he got to know all the nooks and crannies and all the nuances, because it is a behemoth. This market is huge compared to the rest of the world. So I thought that that was a great discussion, which you guys are going to be listening to.
Absolutely. Storytelling, you know our philosophy. The most important component in marketing music today is getting people's attention. And one of the ways you do that is, as you're saying, Eric, is creating a compelling narrative.
Yeah.
This has become, and it's true across all media. I mean, I don't want to get off on a tangent on that, but it's very true what you're saying is creating that narrative, creating that storytelling element. Very, very important in marketing artists today.
And a perfect example, you recently sent me a story about Ghost having the #1 record. I had read the article and it was just interesting because they talked a lot about their narrative and how he built Tobias, which is the guy who's the main, you know, it's his creation, Tobias Forge, and how he created this whole like universe and how important that has become as part of their narrative and story and why they have the #1 record in the country after I think a couple of years for rock albums. And it's just very interesting because there's a perfect example there how somebody can build a universe and build a whole world
and a narrative.
And how it makes it so important for keeping people engaged in this economy that we're in, that like it's just you're on from one thing to the next thing to the next thing because you're being bombarded, as we've talked about.
Yes, but what makes your point so important is that if you have the narrative, like you use the illustration of Ghost, which I believe it's their
sixth album.
Okay, sixth, just like Sabrina Carpenter, it's the sixth. That's what it takes today, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
He built that very, very carefully. And when you don't necessarily have hit records to constantly bombard people with, you better have a narrative that they remember.
And with that, insiders, sit back, relax, and enjoy our featured conversation from Muse Expo 2025 with Dave Wallace.
Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. You know, throughout your career, you've played a pivotal role in breaking UK bands into the US market, from Two Door Cinema Club to Blossoms to Bombay Bicycle Club. What are the biggest challenges in translating domestic success into international recognition, and how have your strategies evolved in this particular area over the years?
In at the deep end, huh?
Yeah.
From the first one. I mean, I think I didn't really expect to end up in this specific role. You know, I started out as an agent in the UK out of university, and that was actually where I signed Las Vegas and Two Door Cinema Club. And really that role was helping them get into Europe and the rest of the world. And America was a bit of a mystery to me. And as I built a successful roster at Primary Talent, I went for lunch with Ian McAndrew, and he offered me a job at Wildlife. And at the time, you know, the Arctic Monkeys were my favorite band. You know, Ian is one of the greatest managers of all time, bar none. The opportunity was too good for me to turn down. So I had this incredibly fortunate period of time where I get to be in the office every day with really one of the best, greatest English managers to ever do it, and learned so much from Ian, and he put so much time into me, and it was incredible. And around 2012, I think it was 2011, 2012, I'd signed this band called Morning Parade. And they were signed to Parlophone Records in the UK, and it was difficult. Radio 1 wasn't really pushing a lot of guitar music, and I was spending more and more time in America trying to understand the marketplace, because I was fascinated, because I was by no means an expert in Europe and the rest of the world at this point in my life, but at the same time I'd seen Las Vegas blow up and tour with U2 all over the world and book them to headline festivals, and I'd seen Two Door Cinema Club break out of Europe and come back and break in the UK in that order, you know, with Kitsune Records doing an incredible job over there. And I'd also watched Ian manage the Monkeys. You know, they really were the biggest band in the world, really, outside of North America, where they hadn't actually completely broken yet at that stage. And, you know, through no real skill of my own, Capitol Records, who were the partner of Parlophone, worked Morning Parade's headlights to alternative radio in 2011, and Jeff Reagan loved the song, and he played the shit out of it. He played it a lot, and people really liked it, and it was getting requested a lot, and people really liked the song. And around that time, you know, I decided to come to America and really focus on the band, and, you know, left the inn under great circumstances and set up my own management business in North America. And it was just me and Morning Parade touring America, putting this record on TV and climbing the radio charts and learning as we go. And I was fascinated by this territory where, you know, I'd grown up in a world where, like, if you didn't get on Radio 1, you weren't going anywhere. You know, it was like a filtration system of artists. And Radio 1 was playing less and less guitar bands at the time, which has always been my passion, really, you know, indie rock, alternative. And I came out here and there was 98 alternative radio stations and, you know, 50 to 60 AAA stations and 70 plus active rock stations. And I was like, wow, like, you know, and these guys that I was learning from, you know, Bill Carroll, bless him, and Dave Barbis and Howard Petruzzo, like these guys that were the, you know, the engine room of Capitol Records. I learned so much from them in that period of time. And it's like, their energy was like, yo, if it didn't work in Rhode Island, fuck it, let's go to Boston. Like, if it don't work there, then fuck it, let's go to Philadelphia. And I was just like, wow, this is so exciting. Like, there isn't this moment where it's do or die in a playlist meeting. It's just like, let's work this record, you know. And at that time, you know, Morning Parade were doing very, very well in the EMI system because of this growth in North America. And I met with a band called You Me at Six, who were already, you know, playing their first arenas and stuff. And they were a very established band and very, very talented rock band. And I met them and we decided to work together for management, which for me, I guess I was probably about 27 at the time, it kind of shocked everyone in the business that I'd signed this big band. But they were really keen to grow in North America. And we made a great record with Neil Avron in LA. We had #1 at Rock Record in America with BMG, who were the label partner. And at the time, this is pre-Corda Marshall. You know, this is when really they were a publisher. And just by a force of will, me and the band kind of put it out there, found licensed partners. You know, we worked with Prospect Park and Jeremy Summers and all these people to put the record at the top of the chart. We had a #1 rock record in Australia. We had a #1 album in the UK. We sold out the O2 Arena. And I started to become fascinated with the global promotion of music. And, you know, I then managed Bat for Lashes and some other artists as well. So all of this to say that by 2017, I'd sold my management business to Rock Nation 360. And I took some time out to really kind of decide, like, what do I want to do now? I didn't want to be a manager anymore. I feel like I'd always got into music because I love passionately promoting music. It's kind of what gets me out of bed in the morning. And being a manager, I just kind of ended up there. And, you know, when the 360 thing didn't work out as planned, I took a break, and Jim Chancellor and Michael Rowe had really formed the Caroline Group, which is still kind of the backbone of what Virgin Music is today. And we were all kind of obsessed with breaking music internationally because it was something that we felt that the majors weren't able to do unless you were the top 10. You know, like, they're so good at it. Like, this isn't me saying majors can't break stuff internationally. It's what they do. But you had to be in the top 10 or so artists. And we had all these incredible acts. Like, there's very famous stories about Jim flying to LA to meet with them to make sure that Snow Patrol broke. You know, he was always fighting these battles and is a real mentor of mine, as is Corda. And I know that when Corda came into You Me at Six on the second album, we were really trying to push BMG to up their game and break them in North America. And we had our own struggles there. And so, you know, a lot of the people that have mentored me through the years have been very focused on the international breaking of music. And I suddenly was lucky enough to play a role for Virgin Music, Caroline at the time, but Virgin Music, where I was bringing Frank Turner, Self-Esteem, you know, Blossoms, Bombay Bicycle Club, Palace, who have had a huge successful, 5 years with, they've just sold out the Palladium. They're doing 3,000 to 5,000 a night all around the world, thanks to the work of the entire Virgin system, not just me. So that's like some historics about how I ended up in this role, which I guess is worth saying. But, you know, the strategy of it all really changes as much as the music industry does from time to time. But I think it would be wrong of me to act as though, like, this international growth piece into North America doesn't happen without success in the UK, right? Or the home territory. So, like, you know, I'm doing all the mushroom stuff for Corda and for the Godinsky family, and I love it, and they've got some amazing things, but they create the stories around Alex Leahy or Gordy. They're the ones that put it on New Music Friday, ANZ, and, you know, build Tobias out of the home market, and then you've got Corda in the UK who's putting wins on the board in the UK, and me that's following from that. Because I always say to people, if you give me 5 or 6 very compelling wins in the home territory, I can turn that into hopefully 10 to 20 to 30 wins here, because there's so many places to go with it.
You have a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the translation.
Yeah.
The translation piece is maybe like the most important thing. It's like, how can I frame this in a way where this radio station or this media outlet or this booking agent that we want to sign it can understand that this is not just something that's good, it's something that they understand how to work with themselves, something that's similar to what they already have on the playlist, what they already have on the roster, what they already have in the magazine, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, that's kind of been the role, and it's really fun, you know, to be like Mushroom's got this guy, Anthony Smerick, right? And Corda's done an amazing job in the UK. He was 6 Music's Artist of the Year last year. He's selling out shows all across the country. And a lot of people crassly compare it to The Streets, if you know The Streets,
Yeah.
Mike Skinner, you know, because it's kind of spoken word over dance beats. But it's actually more like Alex Turner doing something over taiko, you know? And when you say that to Americans, they're like, oh, wow, I fuck with that. Big time. Like Alex Turner doing over taiko, and when they come to the show, they really get it, you know. And it's little things like that where you're like, because his poetry is more elevated than Mike's. Like, I'm a huge Streets fan, but he's the voice of the working class, whereas Anthony's is very much in that kind of tranquility base, Arctic Monkeys era poetry. So I just think that that's a big part of the game. Like Blossoms, you know, Blossoms were a band that, you know, they've had, I think, 5 #1 albums in a row in the UK.
Wow.
You know, Brit Award, Artist of the Year. You know, they're massive. They're absolutely massive in the UK. They do outdoor stadiums and festivals. And, you know, no one could really get it going here in America. And we had a really good run with them, where we were able to help people see why they were like the Arctic Monkeys, why they were on the radio with the 1975 in the UK. And, you know, one of the things I always say as an example is, like, when you look at the 1975, or even Catfish and the Bottleman, right? Those artists were day one narrative and story, intermedia. So, like, as it started to break in the UK, their teams were out telling the story in a very compelling way, helping people understand what it was, and they broke the world as a result. Whereas, like, Blossoms, they broke in the UK, and people weren't really telling the story in cadence in North America. You know, I think they'd be fine with me saying that, you know, because I really tried on my album as well. But it's like, if someone's in there day and date, like day one, telling the story before the first album, you have a much bigger chance to break.
Hey, insiders, we hope that you've been enjoying our featured conversation. Stay tuned because we've got so much value coming your way. But before we dive back in, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Eric, as an artist, what do you find are the most challenging aspects to a music career, especially when you're starting out?
Well, I think one of the first things is just trying to get the direction of who you are as an artist, where you want to go, where you want to be. And, you know, we've talked about it on the show a lot. Who is your target audience? Who you are? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you think would resonate with an audience? And so those are some of the things that I would feel being a new artist. Obviously, what I know now is different because I know these things, but for people that are out there like our audience that don't have necessarily any direction to go would be the first things that I would start off with.
And having the songs that
Absolutely.
incorporate those elements that you're speaking of into it. That's so important today.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we started MUBUTV and why we started this new consulting service that we're offering to all of our insiders out there, because that is another one of the big things. I mean, that is the big thing, is like having the great songs. That's what it really starts off. Our friend Don Grierson always said, it always starts with a great song. So that's probably, besides putting together what your audience and what your target audience is the single most important thing. Where are your songs at currently today? Are you collaborating with people? Are you trying to go out to networking events where you can connect with other songwriters and stuff like that? So
Yeah, and what are your strengths?
exactly.
You know, are you a strong lyric writer? Are you a strong melody writer? Are you a strong musician, a player?
Right.
You know, and it's really important to get really strong clarity on those issues before proceeding.
I totally agree, Rich. And, with our consulting services, we offer a myriad of different packages, and we've made it super affordable for everybody. So, if you guys are interested out there in connecting with us on a coaching call, you can visit book.mubutv.com and start off with a free 15-minute discovery call.
Well, yeah, absolutely. There we start with an initial 15-minute call where we can get a sense of who you are, what are the issues that you specifically have and want to work on.
Exactly.
And we can go from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we tailor everything to your needs. It's not like a cookie cutter thing. We kind of really want to get to know who you are as an artist, where you at today, what's the snapshot of you as an artist today, and then start trying to craft something that's tailor-made for you. So again, if you're interested, visit us at book.mubutv.com for your 15-minute discovery call.
Hi, this is Danny Fell from Music Industry Mastery. Are you an insider? I am. Subscribe now.
Dave, as both a manager and label executive, you've worked at the intersection of creative development and commercial success. At what level do artists have to be at today in their development to attract management and a label?
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting question, isn't it? It's almost like could have been on the panel today.
I didn't get to it, actually.
Right, yeah. We were all talking too much. But no, it's such a good question. What it triggers in me personally is like, are you signing something because you believe in it? Or are you signing something because you think that they are already making money and you want a piece of it, right?
Well, you also just spoke about this in your previous answer when you talked about, give me 5 or 6 wins in your home territory,
right?
Which goes to the heart of this question. Whether it's New Zealand or England or, the 5 albums that, So it applies to what you're talking about in a relevant way.
No, absolutely. And I could give another example. There's a guy we're developing at the moment on the future side who's this guy called Timmy Skelly. And he's super cool, amazing singer-songwriter. And at the moment, I think he's got somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 monthly listeners, which most labels wouldn't even have a look at it.
Right.
But he's getting booked on Bonnaroo. He's touring with people. We've got A&Rs reaching out because the music's so good. Like, I do think that there's a level of quality that can get management and label to buy in.
And he's getting it.
Yeah, and he's getting it. You don't get booked on Bonnaroo unless you're really good.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like...
There's belief.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm always quality first and then numbers at some stage when you're there. Because, like, even... I was talking about this with someone yesterday, right? In the independent alternative space, that's the only place I have any knowledge. I know nothing about any other genre. I haven't bothered to learn about it. But in my world, big singles, the hit singles of your career are few and far between. And they're the guiding lights they're the gateway drug to the rest of your catalog.
Right.
So like everyone discovers Palace through Live Well from album 1. That's how they find them. That's what it is. Everyone loves Live Well. It's the one they all sing along to. And Bitter's probably second. And then there's a couple of others. So it's like, you almost have to just circle the airport with an artist. Like you pick them up, you believe in them, you make the content, you make great records, and you just know at some point in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to get an opportunity to land. And when you get that opportunity, land it and make the most of it.
I wanted to ask you, what regions or emerging markets are you seeing emerging today?
Yeah, the reason I didn't answer this one on the panel is because I sort of wanted to just humbly allow for the people that are truly signing stuff from those emerging markets to take that answer. Because for me, I think it's, I work a lot of Australian bands, I work a lot of English bands, I've worked some European stuff, I work a lot of American bands, but it's largely English-speaking music that we are then trying to traffic into the rest of the world. So there's some really exciting stuff going on in my world where, like, things like Stellar Trigger, 100 Days, Thrice Cooked, these are agencies that are using emerging markets to trigger big streaming and social responses, and then we move it back into major territories. So there's a lot that I'm excited about in terms of these growing markets. You can reach people at a low-cost market and with a great asset. But I'm not personally, like, signing stuff in Thailand, but I think it's exciting for us all. The more people that we can get to a subscription-based model on any streaming at all, that is really what we've been being told for 10 years is the end game, right? That's how royalties are going to increase. That's how we're all going to make more money. And I think we're all still kind of waiting for that to happen. So I'm very excited to see the pickup of streaming and the ability to reach everyone in their hands with the artists that we represent.
And it's happening, but just very slowly throughout the rest of the world. I mean, the main markets got it, and it's kind of plateaued, but now we're seeing that growth. It's just not happening at the speed
Right.
that the other markets.
Someone with a lot more knowledge and more intelligent than me said the other day that India is a country where people like to own things. They like to, I don't know if that's true or not for the record, but it was really interesting to hear them say that it's still a culture where people want to own a CD. And the guys were talking about it in Korea as well.
Yes.
Yeah, Korea and Japan and Germany, those cultures.
Product. So like moving to this like, I don't own it, I rent
access
it
model.
Culture. Yeah, it's like a big shift for people. So, you know, but as far as we know, I think that there's a lot of like growth ahead, hopefully, for the streaming model.
Let me ask you, throughout your life, have there been any books, films, or documentaries that you have found to be really inspiring, professionally speaking, that you can recommend to our audience?
I mean, that's an interesting question. I do like, I think there's some biopics, to be honest with you. I think there's some, biopics, to be honest. I actually found Richard Branson's book to be super inspiring. I think it's called Learning to Fly.
Learning to Fly,
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
One of my favorites.
And...
Do you see the TV series they did with him on that?
No.
Yeah.
I've got to watch it.
I think it's on HBO. It's a 9-part.
Yeah,
all about his life. I mean, it's
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
If you're a fan of Branson,
if you love the book,
then
then you'll love this because it's an actual film on 9-part series on him.
And I like, I saw that moment, after I left management, I had a year where I was really kind of, trying to work out what I wanted to do with my life. And I was very, very inspired by his vision. I know that sounds like almost like a silly thing to say about Richard Branson, but in particular, like he raised all that money and just built a house with a studio in it. It's like the stupidest thing you could do, but then like Tubular Bells was made there, and Wings came through, and it was the other. People will laugh at me for this, but the other film has got to be Field of Dreams. I have to say that.
Yeah.
If my mum ever hears this, she'll be like, "Why don't you say Field of Dreams?" But again, it's that thing that Richard Branson did. If you build it, they'll come.
Yes,
build a studio, and just like he didn't know what he was going to do.
Right.
He'd been hammered by the tax man for all of his import businesses, but then built Virgin Records, and like even when they rebranded it, I was so proud to be a part of that. And to work with Virgin Records in my everyday life. That's been a big thing for me. And then, the Beatles anthology, the BBC one, as my go-to. They are the greatest of all time. There's not a conversation about that. And like to see and Get Back as well was crazy.
That's unbelievable. That should be mandatory viewing for every band.
Oh,
mandatory.
When the first day that I watched the first episode, I'm like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I couldn't understand that it was real, that we're watching them write these songs in real time, like demoing them together. And I thought that was really powerful. I mean, everything the Beatles, Sting's autobiography as well was really meaningful to me when I was younger. And one of my favorite stories, Corda always talks about the Police, and how they played to 3 people in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, let's go out there and rock it. And it turned out to be the heads of the radio station, and they put Roxanne on the radio, and the rest was history. And there's always something about that I think is inspiring. So that's what I'll go with. But there's been many.
Well, those are all good choices. All good choices. I wanted to ask you, Dave, what advice do you have for those who are committed to building a career as a songwriter, producer, or artist? What would you tell them?
The key word in what you just said is committed. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time. I just talked with some artists after the panel, and it's hard. It's really hard. It's harder than it's ever been. And everyone's like talking about how there's so much more opportunity, and there's so much more ways to reach the audience, and there's so much more money swirling around the music business, and it gives people a false sense of what's really going on. It's never been harder at the lowest level. It's never been harder at the beginning. It's never been more saturated. The money is nothing at the beginning. Like, it's embarrassing how little money people are getting paid. And the first 5 years, you might get lucky. But luck is what it is, because the first 5 years of developing your project and who you are is like, it's one of those things where you have to retain the belief. You have to try and stay inside yourself, do the most you can without it driving you crazy. But we've built these algorithmic hamster wheels for us. I didn't. The tech overlords have built these algorithmic hamster wheels for content creators that artists are now trying to fit themselves into. I work with some very credible, very respected big artists. All of them hate the process,
right?
But they do it because they know they have to, and they know they want to reach their fans. But when I first came into the music business, I learned under some really amazing people, and the music business was about talent about brilliance and about using media to reach people so that when they felt this brilliance, they would agree. That was it. Now it's almost like American Idol times 10 trillion pieces of content a day.
Yes.
And I understand why these young artists are coming up to me afterwards being like, I'm posting 3 times a day, I'm doing all of this, but I've only got, 1,500 monthly listeners, I'm failing, I'm nothing, and all this. And it breaks my heart. I'm like,
Right.
No, you're not. Don't use that language. Like, you're making art. And I can tell these people are real musicians. That's why they're here. That's why they're not just in their bedroom posting every day and thinking, oh, is this working or not? They're trying to meet people. They're trying to network. And, I have so much respect for anyone that steps out on the path and tries to be a creative. I just think that the cream does rise to the top. If you are truly talented, and you have to be if you're going to get there, I do not think that outside of luck, there is a long-term career for anyone who isn't truly talented. But if you are, and you are persistent and you keep putting out good work into the world, then I genuinely believe you'll build a good career. But strap in and look to 3 to 5 years. I think it's Bill Gates gets credited with it, but there's a quote that I love, which is, most people overestimate what they're capable of in a year, but underestimate what they're capable of in 5. And I love that quote. That's always something I try and keep in my own brain as well, because I always want to get there. I always want to get it all done next month.
We all do.
I'm like, we're going to get this done by Christmas, and 3 years later, I'm like, we got it done. So that's how it works,
All right. Dave, where can people best reach you? Is it through your website, through socials?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, to be honest with you, this is the first time I've spoken on a panel in 17 years.
Wow. Really?
Wow. And I am...
You're very articulate. You're wonderful. You should do it more often.
I am quite private, if I'm honest with you, because, I don't know. I guess I spent a long time building a network, and I'm blessed to be connected all over the world. So I'm busy every day. But I would love for people to reach out to me. I'm Avenue A Records on Instagram, all one word. And there's an email address on the Futures website if anyone wants to hit me up. Same with Mushroom. If you've got any connectivity with Mushroom, Corda will connect us together. And I'd love to hear from people for sure. I think that, this has been lovely to come here today and see a bunch of old friends and faces. It was nice running into Emma Banks just now, who just hadn't seen her in a sec. And, there's some amazing people talking on this panel. But, I want to give more to, the people that you described that I've just been talking to after. I just spoke to about 15 artists for about 45 minutes after that. And, they're all doing different genres, they're all doing different things, but they're all trying to get the cogs to turn for them in the right time. And I see there is a world where people like that could benefit from hearing from me. So I'd love to hear from people if they want to reach out on Instagram. Is probably the best way to do it.
Wonderful. Dave, we want to thank you so much for doing this.
That was
We
amazing.
really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, guys.
Man, that was a great conversation.
Yeah.
And I found it very, did you notice he said he's never, spoken on interviews before?
Right.
He's not a
Interviewing type. Yeah.
And man, there are gems in here.
there. Yeah.
His insight and his knowledge, I thought, was so incredibly not only valuable, but it had such relevant points for our audience for today.
Right.
One of the things, Eric, that I thought was so fascinating, he talked about a guy, Timmy Skelly, I think. He said that, and this I think applies to so many artists today, where he only has something like 10,000 monthly listeners, which most labels or whoever wouldn't even give a shot to. But he was able to get him booked at Bonnaroo. That is the world we are living in today.
Right.
The small developing artist. For those in the business, Billie Eilish was that.
Right.
Most people think she just came on the scene with her first album. No, for 3 years and 9 months prior.
Single after single. And
after
building. And building.
Exactly. This is that now in 2025.
And it goes to show you that you don't need to have 1 million followers or anything like that.
Exactly.
That people are seeing through that and willing to take the chances to build into that.
Absolutely. And I thought that was a really important, valuable, salient point for our listeners to hear.
Yeah, also, I felt that another point that he brought that was really great was on what level that artists need to be to attract management and label interest. It triggers in, this is what he said, and I quote, "It triggers in me personally, are you signing something because you believe in it, or are you signing something because you think that they are already making money and you want a piece of it?" I do think that there's a level of quality that can get management and label to buy in, and it's exactly this example that you just illustrated in the previous point about having those 10,000 followers, but yet he saw something that he felt he could build from and got him on that Bonnaroo gig.
Absolutely, yes. Because, let's face it, no matter if you're a filmmaker, no matter if you're a recording artist or a book author or a musician, so much of this business really does come down to belief. Whether it's my belief in you as a manager, your belief in the artist, or whatever, it's about belief.
Hey, Insiders, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. To get show notes, links, and everything that was mentioned during this interview, head on over to our official website at MUBUTV.com/podcast/show notes. If you're enjoying the content and what we're doing here on the show, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts from. And don't forget to rate and review our show at iTunes. 5-star reviews are always welcome and help to ensure that our podcast stands out on the top-rated and new and noteworthy charts on iTunes and our space. You can also find us at social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all ending with the handle MUBUTV, which is spelled MUBUTV. Don't forget to catch our flagship show, the MUBUTV Music Business Insider video series, airing every week on YouTube at youtube.com/MUBUTV. This show was produced and created by Rich Ezra and Eric Knight. Theme music by Disciples of Babylon, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.